Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodhanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodhanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodhanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodhanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Astottara Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Ganga Mai Ki Yamuna Mai Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulsi Maharani Ki Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 4, Sati quits her body, Text 33. Advaryuna Huyamane Deva Utpetu Ojasa Ribhava Nama Tapasa Somam Prapta Sahasrasaha Advaryuna Huyamane Advaryuna Huyamane Deva Utpetur Ojasa Deva Utpetur Ojasa Ribhavo Nama Tapasa Ribhavo Nama Tapasa Somam Prapta Sahasrasha Somam Prapta Sahasrasha Advaryuna Huyamane Deva Utpetur Ojasa Ribhavo Nama Tapasa Somam Prapta Sahasrasha Advaryuna Huyamane Deva Utpetur Ojasa Ribhavo Nama Tapasa Somang Prapta Sahasrasha Advaryuna Huyamane Deva Utpetur Ojasa Ribhavo Nama Tapasa Somam Prapta Sahasrasha Advaryuna Huyamane Deva Utpetur Ojasa Ribhavo Nama Tapasa Somang Prapta Sahasrasha Advaryuna Huyamane Deva Utpetur Ojasa Ribhavo Nama Tapasa Somang Prapta Sahasrasaha Advaryuna Huyamane Deva Utpetur Ojasa Ribhavo Nama Tapasa Somang Prapta Sahasrasha Advaryuna Huyamane Deva Utpetur Ojasa Ribhavo Nama Tapasa Somang Prapta Sahasrasa Advaryuna by the priest Bhrigu Huyamane oblations being offered Deva demigods Utpetu became manifested Ojasa with great strength Ribhava the Ribhus Nama named Tapasa by penance Somam Soma Prapta having achieved Sahasrasha by the thousands. When Bhrigu Muni offered oblations in the fire, immediately many thousands of demigods, named Ribhus, became manifested. All of them were so powerful. All of them were powerful, having achieved strength from Soma, the moon. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is stated here that many thousands of demigods, named Ribhus, became manifested because of the oblations offered in the fire and the chanting of the hymns from the Yajur Veda. Brahmins, like Bhrigu Muni, were so powerful that they could create such powerful demigods simply by chanting the Vedic mantras. Vedic mantras are still available, but the chanters are not. By chanting Vedic mantras or chanting the Gayatri or Rig mantra, one can attain the results one desires. In the present age of Kali, it is recommended by Lord Chaitanya that simply by chanting Hare Krishna, one can attain all perfection. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakal Patarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Advaryuna Huyamane Deva Utpetur Ujasa Ribhavo Nama Tapasa Somam Prapta Sahasrasha. When Bhrigu Muni offered oblations in the fire, immediately many thousands of demigods named Ribhus became manifested. All of them were powerful, having achieved strength from Soma, the moon. Hare Krishna. We are at the end of this significant chapter where Sati is self-immolating, giving up her body in response to her embarrassment of having Daksha as her father after he committed so many grievous offenses against her exalted husband, Lord Shiva. The Srimad Bhagavatam in this canto, fourth canto, deals with the defeating, its focus, one of its focus is to identify and defeat a particular type of philosophy called karma mimamsa. We would have heard and read about karma mimamsa when it was spoken by Lord Krishna himself to convince Nanda Maharaj to perform the Govardhan Puja sacrifice. And here we find a distinction between karma, or the understanding that karma or one's rituals and activities and sacrifices are actually greater or higher or more significant than bhakti or the Supreme Lord, or satisfying the Supreme Lord. So this canto, in this interaction between Lord Shiva, Daksha, Sati, is in a very interesting way exposing the fallacies or the frailties of karma mimamsa. There are 6 types of philosophy that's been described in the Vedic literature. Sankhya, Yoga, Vaisheshika, the various types of Mimamsas, Nyaya. So Purva Mimamsa is very closely related to this Karma Mimamsa philosophy. And the highest type of philosophy, the highest conception of philosophy is Uttara Mimamsa. And the closest to that is this Karma Mimamsa. The interesting thing is that the closer a philosophy is to bhakti, or to the Gaudiya Vaishnava understanding, the closer it is, the more effort or the more difficult it is to defeat it. We may find so many weird philosophies of spirituality in the world today, all over the world. But one of the most difficult to defeat is Mayavad philosophy, because it's so closely related to actual Vedic understanding. Even though it's so close, what's that saying? So close yet so far. So it becomes very difficult. So Lord Shiva, he represents bhakti, bhakti yoga, and Daksha represents karma, karma mimamsa, the understanding that whatever I have achieved is simply due to my karma, my results. There is no dependence on Krishna, on the Supreme Lord. It's all what I've done and how I have done it, the expertise in which I have done it in. That's what's yielding me all the benefit, all the accolades. Therefore, he couldn't understand, he couldn't appreciate when Lord Shiva, the greatest of devotees, didn't respond to him in the way he expected to be responded to. Because he didn't see the Krishna factor. He was just thinking, yes, I am Daksha, and Daksha means expert. I am so expert in everything I do. Therefore, naturally, I must have these results of respect, of honor, of consideration, of deference from others. And then when that wasn't given to him, he sort of began to unravel. He couldn't understand why. How is it possible? Here I am, this is who I am, everybody respects me, but this is not going my way. It's unacceptable. So this karma mimamsa basically is saying, yes, God is there, he may not be there, it's not an issue. Why he's there is just to fulfill my desires. And I try to fulfill these desires through various rituals, various types of karma, various types of techniques. And whether God is there or not, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. He's just there to give us the results of our desires. It can be gotten through some other way. This is similar to what Krishna was telling Nanda Maharaj about not worshipping Indra. That Indra is duty bound to give us the results. It doesn't matter. He has to give us. So why worship him? He's bound. He has no other choice but to give us the results of our activity. So don't worship him. It doesn't matter. We can circumvent him. It doesn't matter. So God ultimately exists simply to fulfill our desires. This is this erroneous karma mimamsa philosophy. So the technique, the process, the rituals, how we do the rituals, that is important. That is the eternal consideration. The mantras in which we chant during those rituals, that's important. That's the eternal thing. And our results, this is another interesting thing about karma mimamsa. The results that we get are eternal. So Daksha couldn't understand that. I got this result of respect, adoration, but it doesn't seem to be eternal. This is very frustrating because this one person who is, from his perspective, externally, junior to him, his son-in-law, even though everyone else knows, every single person in the world, in creation, knows Shiva is so much more superior than Daksha, but he was convinced based on this one external qualification or consideration that I am the father-in-law, therefore I am superior. Even though everyone else could glaringly see Lord Shiva was so much superior. So he couldn't understand it because the results are meant to be eternal. He couldn't accept it. And here we are reading about Bhrigu Muni, this great Brahmana, very, very exalted Brahmana, very expert in the Vedic rituals. Here we're describing how he's chanting mantras, and from his, not even just chanting mantras, he's simply chanting oblations. I'm not sure what oblation he was chanting, but he was chanting it so perfectly that out of the sacrificial fire, what was coming out? Thousands, sahasrashaha, thousands and thousands of ribhus, these powerful demigods, started to manifest simply by his chanting of these mantras, of these oblations. So here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is focusing on the Vedic mantras. The Vedic mantras. And this chanting of Vedic mantras is in many ways the foundation of Vedic culture. How to chant, what mantras to chant, and how to chant the mantras. In Vedic culture, when a child goes to Gurukul, goes to Vedic training, one of the first lessons they receive is the section of knowledge called Shiksha. And that is, well, Shiksha could mean many things, but in this case, in terms of their instruction, it relates to phonetics. Do any of you remember your phonetics when you were in school? Sometimes you hear little children practicing it. Yeah, I remember this. E. So they learn all these things according to the Sanskrit syllables. So this is very important. It gives them the foundation of what is proper pronunciation. Just like we get this word mlecha. We've all heard. Sometimes we've been labeled as mlechas. What does mlecha literally mean? It comes from the root leech, leech. What does it mean? Maharaj, you know what it means? The word mlecha? It's to do with pronunciation. Mlechas really are that group of people who can't speak properly. That's what it means. They can't speak properly. They don't know how to pronounce basic things, especially with regard to Sanskrit. This is that group, that type of people. They can't. They can't pronounce the words. And pronunciation, we see in normal society. Of course, everything in the last decade or so, decade and a half, even I can't keep up with it. It's sort of turning upside down. What are the different ways of measuring quality, measuring civilization, measuring class even? But for many centuries, a sign of a civilized human being was in their speech, right? In how they speak, how they pronounce words. This was a very clear way of discerning what class of a person, what level of civilization, where they come from. You all may have heard of that story Prabhupada also tells about that man who was traveling village to village, and he had like a challenge to everyone, try and guess where he's from. And he would speak in different languages, in different dialects, and no one could guess where he's from. It was like a prize, who could correctly guess. So one man said, I'll take up the challenge. And as that man was performing all his languages, he came from the back and gave him a whack, like a really hard, painful whack. And then this man who was like speaking in all these languages began to swear in his native language. So when pushed to the extreme. So language is very important, and rather how you speak it, the quality of your speech, determines on an external level how civilized or what class of person you are. Just like George Bernard Shaw, he wrote that famous classic, Pygmalion. Those of you who did Pygmalion or read it. Eliza Doolittle, she was this sort of like street vendor selling flowers. And one professor took it upon himself to sort of send her to finishing school and train her up to speak properly. And I think there was like a wager taken between a professor and someone else. I can't remember the detail, but he was going to prove that he can turn this flower vendor into a duchess, into a lady of high quality. And the main thing he focused on was her pronunciation, how to pronounce. And then after some time, many, many months of training, even her consciousness changed, even her outlook of life changed. And when she was offered, okay, you can go back to being a flower vendor, be happy in that, she didn't want to, because she had a different outlook of life based on the change of her language. So the shiksha, this training in pronunciation, in the words, in the syllables, in the mantras, is the foundation of Vedic culture. But here, Prabhupada just dismantles that. What does he say? The Vedic mantras are still available, but the chanters are not. The Vedic mantras are still available, but the chanters are not. It's practically lost. Some remnants are here and there, but practically, for the most part, it's basically lost. And one of the reasons that it's lost is because the chanting of the mantras for a long time wasn't directed to the proper purpose of the mantra chanting. When mantra chanting is directed to its proper purpose, then it's real perfect Vedic culture. And mantras, Prabhupada is saying, these Gayatri mantras, Rig mantra, they are there to fulfill our desires, to fulfill one's desires. Ultimately, the desire to get to a higher realm of existence. But because of decades or centuries of misapplication, it's lost. There are no more chanters, or hardly any more chanters. But the point is, the science is that if we can chant mantras properly, the Vedic culture gives an assurance that one's desires will be fulfilled. This is the Vedic science. Simply by chanting mantras, that sound vibration. Even in modern science, we learn in school or university that the nature of the world, or the various gross elements of this world, the gross objects of this world, they can be described in various ways. They can be described by its form, what we see. But in what science is it called? Can't remember the term. But wave functions. They measure the wave characteristics of any object, and that's the way of identifying its constitution. So similarly, in Vedic culture, in this karma mimamsa that Bhrigu Muni is exemplifying also, the point is how to make the right vibration. How to make the right vibration. How to chant the mantras properly. And again, if you chant the mantras nicely with proper pronunciation, then the desired result will be there. Here, as Prabhupada is saying, as the verse is saying, Huyamane, oblations. He's simply chanting the oblations. Like we chant oblations in our fire yagyas, Swaha. We chant like that. And if you chant it properly, then that helps the actual mantra be pure, be more effective in the way you chant your mantras. Actually, it's described that the oblations that we say, or the ritual that we're performing, the sacrifice we're performing, is not really that important. It's really a secondary thing, how you set up the place, how you did the pattern on the fire yagya, how you set the wood, what spoon you use, what type of rice you use, what type of grain. These are all secondary. They are just there to assist in establishing purity in the actual aspect of the mantra chanting. That is the whole point. That is the whole point. But as Prabhupada suggests here, this depends on the purity of the chanter. The consciousness of the chanter has to be proper. So there's so many conditions that are outlined in proper chanting of mantras, these Vedic mantras, in the proper chanting. And these bija mantras, we find, like we chant bija mantras, Om is a bija mantra, Kling is a bija mantra, Shrim is a bija mantra. So many bija mantras there. We were reading some years ago, some scientific research into yoga was being done. Yoga mantras were being done, and they somehow connected electrodes to people's brains and got them to chant these mantras. And the research showed that for the most part, by far the most part, people's brain activity after some time of chanting Om, bija mantras, their brain calmed down, the activity calmed down, it became settled, became peaceful, according to their calculation or assessment of what peaceful is. But this is the whole point. By chanting these bija mantras, like we do in deity worship, it's meant to settle the mind, settle the brain, so that it's able to focus on the mantra. So like we have three aspects to mantras, right? We have the bija, which is the seed, like Om. You have the name of the person that you are approaching, and you have the oblation, like Namaha or Swaha, like that. But the name is the essence, and the bija helps you to settle the mind to focus on the actual chanting of the mantra, chanting of the name. But as we are showing, the science is so technical of chanting mantras. You got to have proper purity, be properly Brahmanical, externally, internally. Everything around in the situation has to be arranged nicely. Your pronunciation, which apart from Maharaj, I don't know who else is really trained in mantra chanting here today. You have to be so, that's why they teach you mantras in Sanskrit school from the age of 5. Because after you 10, 15, 20, it's not very easy to learn. Very, very difficult. That's why you learn from a very young age. So many things are against us if we were to adopt the process of mantra chanting. Mind you, at the back of your mind, don't think I'm talking about the Hare Krishna mantra now. We'll come to that just now. But real Vedic mantras where we can chant mantras, pour oblations into the fire, swaha, and out can come ribus, out can come the fulfillment of all our desires. So many conditions are required. And without these conditions being met, there's no use of all your chanting. Just like Gayatri chanting, it's described, you have to chant it at the Sandhi. 15 minutes before 15, given that sort of. And some very focused chanters of Gayatri, they understand that if you don't chant it at the Sandhi, no effect. Some people feel like that. No effect. It's very, we have these apps nowadays, they tell you this is the Sandhi time, from this time to this time. And some devotees really are very cautious about chanting it at that time. So this Gayatri, the Rig mantras, all these mantras, they can fulfill all our desires, but so many technicalities. So many technicalities. But at the end of the purport, Prabhupada relates, or he speaks about the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, how it is specific for this age of Kali. Why? Because in Kali, we are all in this one category. Of not being able to pronounce, not having all those technical aspects in place. We all fall into that. So in one sense, us trying to chant mantras, what is the point? What is the point? Rather, the Vedic culture, the Vedic scriptures, the acharyas, they present to us, like Lord Chaitanya, they present to us what is called Taraka mantras. This is referred to in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Taraka mantra means mantras focused on liberation, on salvation, ultimate salvation. Taraka mantra. And the greatest of the Taraka mantras is declared to be in the Kali Santarana Upanishad, which is the greatest of all Taraka mantras. Anybody knows? Iti sodasakanam nam kali kalmasha nashanam nata parataropaya sarva vedeshu drishyate. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Actually, in this Upanishad, the Hare Krishna mantra comes first, and then this verse. That's saying in these 16 names, Iti Sodasaka Nam Nam, contains the potency to destroy all the kalmashas that is there in Kali Yuga, all the contamination that Kali Yuga brings with it. It is so powerful. And this is declared in all the revealed scriptures. Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. This is where it's declared. So this is the ultimate Taraka mantra. Because really, it is not a mantra. We call it Maha Mantra, but it's not really a mantra. There is no bij there. There is no seed of the mantra to purify the mantra. There is no swaha there or namaha there, oblation. It is all name. It is all the name of Krishna. So when there's normal mantra, Vedic mantra, one has to have many considerations of pronunciation and situation and external cleanliness and mind, what's going on. But with the name, there is no consideration. No consideration whatsoever. One just has to speak it. And pronunciation is not even a consideration. Phew. Because we hear so many ways people chant Ram, right? I know there's this whole controversy on the internet, Ram more. Oh boy, some devotees can't stand it. And some devotees just can't not chant Ram more. It's just too much. Oh Krishna, does the tongue go at the back or is it at the front? Now I'm going to confuse you, all right? I think, have I been chanting Krishna all along properly? Krishna. You may hear devotees sometimes saying Krishna because the tongue is sort of curled at the back. Or Krishna, Christian, like North India, right, Maharaj? They say Christian. So which is right? Is one right, the other wrong? No consideration. Or in China, what are they saying? We heard some decades ago, Krishna. Because they don't have the dexterity of the tongue to say the letter R. So it becomes Krishna. But if pronunciation were a serious issue, would Chinese devotees be making advancement? They wouldn't. But when you meet these devotees from China, you see their purity, their inspiration, their enthusiasm. Wow, pronunciation is not an issue with the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. It's not an issue. At least, rather, we should not make it an issue. We should not make it an issue. With everything else, yes, so many considerations. But the Hare Krishna mantra is just name. The name of Krishna, Nami. We are not going through some other way of bija. We're going directly to that person whose name is Krishna, the Nami. This is who we're going to. And Lord Chaitanya speaks about this. What is it? Shikshashtaka, 2nd verse. Nam Nam Akari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktish. That this name has so much of potency. Even though it's so powerful and so exalted, what's the most amazing thing about this name? Tatrar Pita Niyamita Smaranena Kala. There is no niyamas. There is no rules, no hard and fast rules about how to chant, where to chant, when to chant. Nothing in there. This is the most amazing thing about this mantra. This is one of the most important shaktis, energies or potencies of this mantra that's designed to deliver anyone and everyone in Kali Yuga. It doesn't have anything. The one important thing that this holy name requires is our mood in which we chant it. If the mood is there, proper, in why we are chanting it, how we are chanting it, what mood we are then all the considerations, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So like coming back to pronunciation, I just mentioned, like once Srila Prabhupada was asked by one cultured Indian man about the importance of pronouncing the Hare Krishna mantra properly. And Prabhupada said it's not important. And then he gave his own example. He said, sometimes my Western disciples, they refer to me as Guru. Not Guru as in spiritual master, but Guru, which means cow. So like, my dear Guru, my dear cow, can you please bless me something? And Prabhupada says, because he knows their heart and what they mean, he doesn't take offense. He still reciprocates with them. But in the chanting of Vedic mantras, if the pronunciation, there's no reciprocation, it can actually backfire on you. When did the chanting, the mispronunciation of Vedic mantra backfire on anyone? Anyone remember a story? Twasta, yeah? Kumbhakarna, they tricked him, they tricked his tongue, he said something else and he got a completely different benediction. So it can misfire. It can have no effect, that's one. Even worse, it could possibly misfire. But with the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, there is no misfiring in the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Why? Because pronunciation is not the most important thing. Just like pronunciation, we hear of this very famous, wonderful Sanskrit mantra or verse, Bhava Grahi Janardana. You'll have heard of that? It's so encouraging, very, very famous. That the Lord, what does He accept from us in our offering? He accepts the bhav, the essence, our mood in which it's offered. He doesn't worry about the faultiness and the cleanliness and whatever, the inconsistency. He takes the bhava. And where is this mantra coming from? Actually, this mantra, first time I read it was in Chaitanya Bhagavat, where Ishvara Puri, in the first meeting of Ishvara Puri and the Lord, on Lord Chaitanya, Ishvara Puri tells the Lord, his future disciple, that I have written a book about Krishna. Will you be so kind as to read it and edit it and point out some faults? And the Lord says, this is wrong. Anyone who finds fault in a devotee's offering is an offender. And then the Lord quotes this verse. Murka vadati Vishnaye. That foolish people, those who are not learned, they may chant the word Vishnave as Vishnaya, meaning they're saying it wrongly. And Dhiras Vadati Vishnave, a learned person will say it properly. But that doesn't matter. Ubayastu samam punyam. They will still get the same credit, the same piety from the Lord, whether they chant it properly or improperly. Why? Because bhava grahi janardana. This person is Janardana. He is the protector of all human beings. And how does he protect the devotees? Those of us who are trying to. He doesn't worry about the externals considerations. He takes the bhav that it's offered in. This is the important thing that we have to understand. So this is bhava grahi janardana. So the mood is important. And the mood that Srila Prabhupada said that we should chant in is that of a prayerful mood, like a child crying for its mother. Crying for its mother. Not thinking about how this mantra can fulfill this material desire of mine or that material desire of mine. No. Simply in that mood, crying in a dependent way from Krishna. And completely opposite to this mood is the karma mimamsa philosophy. That we don't depend on Krishna, or that person doesn't depend on Krishna. They depend on the ritual. They depend on the properness of chanting the mantra. The person thinks that the ritual is everything, all in all. But that basically is missing the point, like Daksha. It's missing the point. Because Krishna, he's a person and he couldn't care much about our rituals. Really what he wants to taste and see is the emotion, the bhav that in which our offering is presented to him. And sometimes as devotees, we sometimes may get caught up even in rituals. Like we have our very powerful sadhana program. Early morning, Mangalarti, rising early, coming, attending everything, doing Tulsi Puja. It's all very important. But if it's done without the proper mood and the purpose behind which we're doing this, to please Krishna, to be purified in our heart so we can become more and more eligible to serve Krishna, then the results may not be forthcoming. And we see it sometimes, that sometimes a devotee may be following for so many years, very fastidiously, very carefully, every detail. And then something goes wrong, and they get a little bent out of shape. How did this happen to me? I did so many things, did everything really well. It's not going my way suddenly. And what's the answer? It's because Krishna is God. Because Krishna is a person. And you're a person, and Krishna is dealing with you, the person. And he wants you to deal with him as a person, not just as a ritual, as a technique, as a mechanism, as a process. That Krishna, I push this button, you have to push your hand in this way. No. It has to be done with bhava, with a feeling. That's most important. So, while there is no hard and fast rules, tatrarpita, niyamita, smaranena kalha, we have to develop the proper mood. And when we have a materialistic mood, an offensive mood in chanting comes from a materialistic consciousness, like Daksha had. The essence of offensive chanting is a materialistic approach to the chanting of the holy names. That I want something out of it. That I expect Krishna to do things in a certain way through my chanting. But that's not dealing with a person, and especially the supremely independent person. There was this, talking about a materialistic, so-called materialistic approach. There's this nice story from one of the versions of Ramayana. Well, not really Ramayana, but like with Ramayana or Ram Leela, there's just so many stories and books about the Leela of Lord Ramachandra. So in this one presentation, there's a story of a great rishi living in his hermitage with his young son, and he's training his son in so many things. And especially the focus of his training and education of his son was chanting of Lord Ram's name. Trained him up very nicely. Then after some time, this rishi had to leave the hermitage to go on some other service. And he entrusted his son to continue all the service at the ashram, the sacrificial fire and other things. Then after a while, a great king who was nearby traveling in the forest, who was very distressed because he had committed by accident the killing of a brahmana. He had killed a brahmana. Greatest mahapap you can consider. Hard to get a greater sin. So he was feeling very morose and thinking what's going to happen. And he was hoping for some way to get freed from the reaction. So he came upon the hermitage, he saw this young boy and began to discuss with him. And this boy said, "You're looking very disturbed. What is the problem? How can I help you?" And the king explained this is his situation. And he asked him, "How can I get relieved? Can you please help me?" And the boy said, "Yes, no problem. Simply by chanting Ram's name 3 times. Ram, Ram, Ram." Did I pronounce it properly? Simply by chanting Ram's name 3 times, you can be freed from all sinful acts. And this king was overjoyed. Immediately, Ram, Ram, Ram. And just to be sure, he chanted it a 4th time, Ram. And yes, he felt so elated, and he left the ashram feeling very thankful for this boy's advice and chanting Ram's name. And as he was leaving out of the hermitage, outside, he met the rishi who was returning. And this, they introduced, and this king was appreciating the rishi for his son, for training his son up. He's done me such a nice service. And the rishi asked, "What happened?" And he said, "No, I'm such a sinful person. I accidentally committed this crime. And your son just told me, chant Ram's name 3 times, and you'll be freed from all sin." And the rishi, when he heard that, he became furious. Very, very, very angry. And he went into the hermitage and he confronted his son and he said, "You are a faithless person. You're a pashandi. You have no faith. Get out of here. How could you tell this man that by chanting the holy name of Ram 3 times, he'll get freed from all sin. You're a Pashandi. I banish you out of here. Because don't you know that you can get freed from all sin by chanting Ram's name just once? You don't have to chant it 3 times. Just once. So like this, of course, this son was banished. He actually became, from what I read, he became Guha, the famous devotee of Lord Ram. If you'll know the Ramayana, he helped Lord Ram, and just as Lord Ram was banished from Ayodhya. So when we have a materialistic approach, then the name doesn't award us the ultimate result, love of Krishna. So it's the approach, the bhava, and that's what Krishna is accepting. Bhava grahi janardana. So I'll stop here. I just want to read this one nice quote. It sort of summarizes everything. It's from the Chaitanya Charitamrita Antilila, the glories of Haridas Thakur, chapter 3, verse 60. So I'll just read the translation. If a devotee once utters the holy name of the Lord, or if it penetrates his mind or enters his ear, which is the channel of oral reception, that holy name will certainly deliver him from material bondage. Whether vibrated properly or improperly, with correct or incorrect grammar, or properly joined or vibrated in separate parts. This is where our understanding, if someone is saying a word, like it starts off with the letter or the syllable Ra, and in between it has the letter, somewhere in between in another part of the word it says Ma. So Krishna is so kind that it puts the Ra and the Ma together and it makes it Rama. It gives us the benefit of chanting Rama. Isn't that amazing? So whether properly joined or vibrated in separate parts. O Brahmana, the potency of the holy name is therefore certainly great. However, if one uses the vibration of the holy name for the benefit of the material body, for material wealth and followers, or under the influence of greed or atheism, in other words, if one utters the name with offenses, such chanting will not produce the desired result very soon. Therefore, one should diligently avoid offenses in chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Are there any comments? Questions, Maharaj? Something? All right. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanande.